Welcome to this rapid revision session on Browder versus Gayle. Why did the Montgomery Bus Boycott succeed? Let's have a look at the first reason, the Supreme Court. Although the bus boycott was a form of direct action, it needed backing up with the law. As they had done with Brown, that's the Brown versus Board of Education case in 1954, the NAACP stepped in to get the law changed for transport too. They filed the case Browder versus Gayle in February of 1956. Browder was one of the 6 women arrested for violating bus segregation. Parks wasn't used due to complications with her arrest. Gayle was the mayor of Montgomery, who himself had joined the racist White Citizens Council. The case demanded an end to segregation on buses as a violation of the Plessy separate but equal ruling, where they had demonstrated before that separate could not be equal. Until this time, the Montgomery Improvement Association hadn't actually demanded desegregation. On June the 5th, the Supreme Court ruled that buses should desegregate because of the precedent set by Brown 2 years earlier. All appeals by the bus company failed. After 381 days, the Montgomery bus boycott ended on December the 20th, 1956. 1 day later, segregation on buses ended. And we can see in the picture in the bottom right that first integrated bus. We can see Martin Luther King and Ralph David Abernathy sat in the front row. Here's a close-up of that picture. Again, Martin Luther King and Ralph David Abernathy are sat in the front row of the bus. Right next to them, and indeed behind them, we can see some white passengers too. This is what integrated bus transport looked like in Montgomery, but it wasn't entirely straightforward. So why did the boycott succeed? These are 3 factors for success: the commitment of the boycotters, publicity they raised, and their organisation. The boycotters persisted despite threats against them, the loss of jobs or bank loans, going to jail, and even racist bombings. This shows their commitment, but also raised publicity. Also, people were well informed about the first one-day boycott, that was in December 1955, which proved the concept, later events such as the carpools, and Montgomery Improvement Association meetings to keep them involved. This too raised publicity and shows their organisation. Also, existing groups in Montgomery, for example the Women's Political Council, already had contacts including in the press and supporters. The Montgomery Improvement Association coordinated everything. Groups opposed to segregation carried on despite the racist bombings. This shows their commitment and also their organisation. But those links to the press also mean that it links to publicity. So don't doubt that organisation helped lead to commitment. After all, the arrangement of carpools helped people keep going. And also there was communication with the press, which shows the publicity. And this was really impressive and worthy of reporting itself. So the commitment also linked to publicity. Reason 3 that the boycott succeeded was leadership. Martin Luther King was the most prominent leader of the bus boycott, and he was important, but he was not the only one. Joanne Robinson, pictured top right, was president of the Women's Political Council. She was an English teacher from Montgomery. She had been writing to Mayor Gayle and wrote and distributed leaflets informing people about the boycott. E.D. Nixon, an NAACP member who had been campaigning in Montgomery for years, he was called by Parks when she was arrested. He was respected by the black community, but he wasn't as educated or as gifted a speaker as Martin Luther King. But he was a brilliant grassroots organiser. Ralph David Abernathy, like Martin Luther King, was a clergyman, a member of the NAACP. He would organise actions to back up what Martin Luther King called for in his speeches. He took over as leader of the Montgomery Improvement Association when Dr. King left in 1959. So overall, what was the importance of the boycott? The boycott succeeded because it showed that civil rights groups could organise effective protests. It brought Martin Luther King fame. It showed the importance of publicity in changing attitudes. It laid out the basic rules of non-violent direct action protest. However, the white reaction continued to be violent. Homes and churches were firebombed. All white juries typically cleared White Citizens Council members of crimes, no matter how blatant they were. And only the buses were desegregated by Browder versus Gayle. Nothing else, not even the bus stops or waiting rooms. Here are the final points then. The Montgomery Bus Boycott succeeded for several important reasons. The Supreme Court ruled in favour of the NAACP in the case of Browder versus Gayle, using the earlier Brown versus Board of Education case as a precedent. The boycotters were committed, they were organised, and they harnessed publicity really well. The boycott had an effective and inspirational leader in Martin Luther King, but don't forget the other leaders too, Joanne Robinson, E.D. Nixon and Ralph David Abernathy, among others. Lastly then, let's not forget the more famous Rosa Parks, and Martin Luther King too. Rosa Parks may have started the movement, but it was everyone working together who helped it to succeed. That's the end of this video. I hope it's been useful to you, and if it has, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more of the same. Thanks very much, and until next time, goodbye.